Hello and welcome back to my fifth and final Europa Universalis video in the England to America Paradox Interactive Historical Playthrough Mega Series, playing originally as the nation of Great Britain. Where are they? They're over here. But now, following the Revolutionary War, we are now playing for the rest of the Mega Series as the United States. This will be the fifth and final video for Europa Universalis. We are going to transition to Victoria 3 after this, starting in the year 1836. We're going to play this video through until 1821, as mentioned at the end of the last video. And then we are going to play Hearts of Iron 4 as the United States as well. So I'm Admiral Jedi, let's get started. So I'll highlight for you a few issues facing the United States at the beginning of their creation. So the first was really, who are we? Who are we as a government? How does our government work? It's important to know that the Constitution, which basically says how the government works and what it can and cannot do, did not really come into being until around the 1787-88 time frame. And so I believe it was officially ratified in 1789. So the 13 colonies were still just the 13 colonies, and they had worked together during the Revolutionary War under the auspices of the Continental Congress. But the actual Congress, the actual United States of America and its Constitution and three separate divisions, executive, legislative, and judicial, did not really come into being until the passing of the Constitution. I don't know why I got off this. So we've made a few choices so far to represent this. We are a grand republic. I'm not sure what that means, but it's a republic and we're grand. We're the American Republic. In terms of Republican virtues, this was a little bit of a rough choice. I think I chose this because I needed the manpower modifier. The oligarchs cannot rule without the masses enabling them, and the masses cannot decide what they want. In order to keep the public running, we have to protect the values, da-da-da-da-da. So this is an interesting choice because it turns out that this concept that we embrace of democracy, now modern-day democracy in America, one person, one vote kind of thing, it didn't exist. Even in the Constitution, it didn't exist. Basically, you couldn't vote unless you were propertied, unless you had property to vote. So I chose this because this concept of, the common folk, we kind of know better than them. Whether that was really, a direct part of our founding principles, I'm not going to really say. But it turns out that it was, in effect, a direct part of it. And then I chose frequent elections because, again, the president by the Constitution is limited to a term of no more than 4 years. And so we're going to go ahead and continue exploring each one of these issues as government reforms get passed and, how they relate to being the United States of America. So that was one of its issues. Related to that was whether or not we should have a monarchy. And, of course, most people believed that we should not. And there was this deep-rooted fear in having any executive power vested in a single person, that person would become king. Now, if you've watched the previous videos where we went through the English Civil War, you would have seen that Oliver Cromwell, being basically the head of the executive, was essentially king. He denied the title of king and chose the title of Lord Protector, but the United States really any hint of this. So they originally wanted to have a very weak executive branch and have the states and Congress, be everything. Again, that's the premise of a republic, is the unification of the states, that we're a federalist republic where the United States, the federal government, is essentially, not the overseer. I was about to use the term overseer, but that would be incorrect. But rather just the working together body, the body that allows us to work together. And they wanted to have all the strength in the Congress. So there's not a whole lot I can do in game to make that happen. So since I don't want to necessarily just be a history teacher with the pause button on the entire time, Somebody did yell at me about that all of my videos had the pause button on it. It was one person, but it hurt my feelings. But anyway, I'll try and have a little bit more in-game relevance and a little bit more action to try and satisfy those folks. All right, next issue. Part of the fear of gathering too much power in the executive was the concept of standing armies. So they did not want there to be standing armies. However, the Constitution did allow for the creation of, for the funding of and maintenance of armies and fleets, but those things were not supposed to be standing. So I don't think that a standing army came into being until President John Adams, which is going to happen later, so we'll do that. But we are going to chase down some of these missions to create a fleet and to assemble an army. We're certainly going to conquer new states, but I really hate the fact that we have to have tributary subjects in order to get that mission to create a grand fleet. So, because the United States didn't really have tributary subjects. We could theoretically vassalize some Indian nations, and I may do that just to tear down or chase down the missions. But that is not historically accurate. So you know what? I can't do it. I can't do it. So we may just skip that mission, which makes me sad. Now, another issue which will come up, but not until Victoria 3, is the ever-present issue of slavery. Did you know, I did not know this, that slavery, the preservation, not prohibition, the preservation of slavery was written into the Constitution, Section 1, Article 9, Clause 1, which basically said, and again, the United States government was formed on this. It's pretty creepy. But, you know, again, I don't want to say but to slavery because obviously it's awful. It's just important to remember, like, where people were and who they were at that. And so the United States government would not have even been formed. Now, I guess I sound like an apologist here. I said I was not going to pass moral judgments on these things. I might be wading into a little bit of a moral judgment that I feel uncomfortable because, again, I should be 100% clear that I am 100% opposed to slavery. Just reflecting on the mindset back then from a historical perspective, which I said I would do in my, what do you call those things? I keep wanting to say diversification, but my disclaimers at the beginning of the video is the mindset at that time, again, not justifying it, was that the United States would not even have been formed, that the southern slave-owning states would have, if they knew that slavery was going to be banned immediately upon the formation of the United States, would have just said, you know what, peace out, no thanks, we're not a part of this. So anyway, the Constitution has it that no law can be passed terminating, or I forget what the actual clause is. You know what, I've got my handy pocket Constitution right here in front of me. Yes, if anybody didn't think that I was a nerd until now, you got it. I'm going to read it to you. The migration or importation of such persons, slaves, that's my word, not the Constitution, as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit, shall not be prohibited by Congress prior to the year 1808, 1808. So slavery was, by constitutional clause, not bannable until 1808. Very interesting to me. So we're going to explore that, not in any of the EU5 series, but rather in Victoria 3. All right, let's, this has been a big paused history lesson, so let's just do, what are we going to do? One more thing, and that is debt. Let's look at the economy. Okay, I think we have some debt. Now, this was an interesting concept, and if you're a Bitcoiner or crypto bro, is still an interesting concept to this day. And that was the concept of governmental debt was looked on, generally speaking, as a bad thing, and that debt should be taken on, used, and repaid. It was Alexander Hamilton, who was employed as the first Secretary of the Treasury, who broached the concept of this like floating debt. So long as, he asserted, we have mechanisms, taxation, fees, levies, all that sort of thing, to continually to keep the debt paid as opposed to going bankrupt, why not keep a certain amount of it around in somewhat of a flexible capability? And so this is why we have, as Congress, the capability to borrow money, again, or as the cryptos would say, print money, right? Money machine, go. So again, a little bit of moral judgment on my part. But we can thank Alexander Hamilton for that, for good and for bad. I actually have been reading his bio, and I'm kind of a big Hamilton fan. One of the things that came up at this point under Hamilton as well, not at this point, but in a few years, and then we're going to stop the history lesson and start playing, is the stronger federal government with its capability to raise money, centralize banking, and have standing armies and navies versus what the Federalists would say would be weaker states. And that was a big fear, that without a strong centralized government, that the states could be taken over by France or Spain or something like that. In fact, that was a fear that the British colonies had before even becoming the United States of America, is why do this? We have the protection of the motherland of England, and France or Spain. I mean, Spain's right here, right? And, well, France used to be here, but as I pointed out in the previous video, England basically is back. So the final thing, and sort of the remainder of this game, is going to be the expansion of the United States over time into these various areas, and the ultimate addition of new states to the Union. Okay, History lesson over. Let's get started. Thank you for putting up with that long history lesson. So our primary goal at this point will be to fully flesh out the United States territory-wise. And we're going to be going after Vermont here. I made a mistake to go after this upper section of Maine first. Not historically accurate. In fact, I may just recall it. And instead go here. Okay, to Vermont. So what I'm going to do is not try to bring the states in historical times so much as... What, did that just happen, like, immediately? Okay, that was very surprising to me. So much as in order that they were ratified as states. And that's for the same reason as the previous videos. And you can see it already. Everybody's beginning to attack these people already. So this map will rapidly turn back into what it was, which is Spain, or whatever. And so I need to just be a part of that game, the rush to, acquire these new territories. So we're going to do it in order, and Vermont was the next one added after the initial ratification of the 13 states. So we just did that. So the next states will be Kentucky, Tennessee, and Ohio. So here's Ohio here, right? In terms, that one, I've been reading a book on it, so I'm able to recognize it right away. Tennessee, I can't really see too much of with these borders the way that they are. Let me look that up real quick. Okay, the Great Smoky Mountains, I thought that was... Alright, a little bit of a geographically challengedness for me here. Let's look it up. Yeah, so... Kentucky is really west of Virginia, and you can kind of see that here. All right, whereas Tennessee is really west of North Carolina. And so that looks like these areas here. Okay. Why do we not have a colonist? Missionaries. I thought he would have returned by now. Maybe it's just taking a little bit of time to return. Alright, so we will go ahead and try and take this. They're at war with the 13 colonies. Okay. And we will go ahead and try and take this from the Cherokees. So this is again, one of those things that I said in my disclaimers. The displacement of native populations, not something I endorse whatsoever. It's something that historically happened. And one of the key sort of cause and effects of this, again, I have to really not try and pass any moral judgment, pro or con on this one, is, first of all, well, I mean, I will pass a moral judgment. Okay, I mean, you have people, it's not like America was discovered, right? It was here, and there were people living on it, okay? And those people were very much not into having a new people basically show up and, displace them. And that is what happened. And so what did happen is a massive back and forth, attack and reprisal and attack and reprisal. I'm not trying to click on one or the other here to do that. One of the big things that the settlers did was they were constantly expanding into more land, and their animals, their livestock animals, would wander into indigenous lands and eat all their crops and everything like that. And I remember reading this in my books, and I'm like, why didn't they just kill them? They did. They're like, oh, sweet, food. Thanks for the free food. And then the American settlers would be like, what are you killing our livestock for? We're going to go ahead and kill your villages and stuff like that. And then they're like, okay, why are you killing our villages? We're going to go ahead and kill you and take your scalps. So it's easy to not know that the Indian tribes had a long history of raiding and kidnapping each other for thousands of years. Just like the Europeans had a long history of raiding and kidnapping each other for thousands of years. So this was not a peaceful people who lived with an evil set of savages, or a peaceful people who lived with an evil set of savages. These are people who had selfish needs, understandable selfish needs, and who came into conflict with each other. And so that's the final disclaimer I'm going to make on that one. Feel free to rage at me or yell at me or laud me or whatever you want in the comments. But we are going to push forward with the acquisition and the conquering of Indian lands. Again, a regrettable event that is historically accurate. 1790, I'm pleased to see a constitutional convention talking about what we just did the history lesson over. So the event government form happens. All right, what are we going to do? Was the government form, right? We have an American republic, federal republic, and or monarchy. Now, I've already chosen these government reforms and kind of highlighted them earlier, so we're going to roll with American republic. So I don't know that okay, social reform. Going through extensive social organization. Oh, this is just kind of a standard dealie. All right, so it's kind of fun to see the Constitutional Convention happen a year too late. Well, actually, 2 years too late. I don't think it was ratified until it was ratified in 1789, but work began in 87 and 88. So some fun history. We're going to continue with our expansion and wrap this video up probably sooner than later, so that we can move on to Victoria 3. So second issue, and again, here we need to make a unfortunate, historically accurate decision. Slavery was constitutionally forbidden from being abolished until 1808. And so we're going to let it be, which again is a shameful choice, but historically accurate. Something that's completely out of time and I have no historical knowledge of, but here it is right here. U.S. forces attacked Seminole Indians. Basically, Spain realized like the United States could attack Florida at any time. So they sold it to the United States. So, okay. We're going to get... I assume we're going to take a huge hit on money, but that's fine. Okay. So, oh, wow. Okay. So, wow. I mean, you just saw a huge gain in land there, which is going to set us up pretty well for Victoria 3 land. I suppose the Louisiana Purchase is going to come in here somewhere. So that was very surprising, that huge level of land gain, and very welcome. Ahead of time. But it's there, and as I pointed out in earlier videos, Europa Universalis, everything happens way too soon. Everything. So it's almost impossible to do these things on time unless you want to get lost. So, okay, so that was pretty cool. And here we are, 4 years too late. With all the events that have occurred, we can officially adopt the Constitution of the United States of America. As part of that, I've been holding on to this leader here for a little while, so we're going to go ahead and respect the term limits and allow the President of the United States to be swapped out in accordance with our brand newly formed Constitution. You can see that the growth of the United States has accelerated. Again, this is way ahead of time, and we're going to keep doing that until the end. So I'll just get this pushed to 1821, and if anything significant comes up in the meantime, bring it back in, and otherwise, let's keep going. We need to focus a bit now on international diplomacy. Let's go ahead and do that. So, following the revolution, efforts to make peace with Great Britain were commenced. It's been commenced for a long time in the timeline of things. And one of the practices that Great Britain used to do was harassing American ships and sailors. They would capture the ships and capture the men and press them back into service, claiming that they were in fact not Americans, but deserters, Englishmen who had deserted their posts. And they would capture them and bring them back into service, into English service, claiming that they were deserters. In addition to that, there were debts that American citizens owed to English merchants. The citizens, the American merchants and plantation owners in the South would claim that the British, who set American slaves free, basically owed them compensation for that. It's kind of a wild claim. And so there was a lot of disagreement, and John Jay was sent to Great Britain to negotiate a peace treaty with them. And the treaty that was negotiated, many people, in fact, this made Americans very upset, many people believed that it was too wimpy, basically, too favored to England's side. And in fact, the presidents at the time, I think it was George Washington at the time, was accused of being an Anglophile or an England lover, and because the treaty was so in favor of England. In reality, that was probably the best they could get, because America didn't exactly overpower Britain in the Revolutionary War. It was really a war of attrition, as we kind of talked about last time. So America, as part of the Jay Treaty, established Great Britain as a favored trading partner. This upset France, who then started doing the same thing and attacking French ships, to the point where, under President John Adams, they almost went to war with France in what was called the quasi-war, sort of like the almost war. So here's what we're going to do diplomacy-wise. First of all, off-camera, I already attacked Spanish Louisiana to take them because I can, and they're not allied to Spain, and I don't need, for whatever reason, they're a junior partner, but Spain's not coming to their aid, which is nice, because I really don't want to fight another huge battle against Spain. Maybe I have a treaty with them or something like that, or a truce with them. Who do I have a truce with? France. Okay, whatever. So anyway, we're going to basically try and take what is the equivalent of the... Come on, bring that back. There we go. Of the Louisiana Purchase. There is an event in EU4 for the Louisiana Purchase, which would have gotten all this territory west of the Mississippi, but it's only if France or one of France's colonies own this land, and unfortunately, because Spain is a greedy player, a greedy AI player, they own it all. We don't get the Spanish or the Louisiana Purchase, so we're going to tax Spanish Louisiana to basically simulate that. The next and final war that we're going to do after that We're going to try and figure out how to simulate the War of 1812, which would have been, again, against Great Britain. And in fact, the White House was burned to the ground in Washington when that happened. But let's go ahead and fight against Spanish Louisiana and see how much of this territory we can recover. Well, cover. Technically not recover. So that really wasn't that difficult at all. I mean, we completely beat up on them. They have no allies, take all their territory, and basically force them to give up their claims. So that results in a huge gain for the United States. Again, we're going to kind of simulate the Louisiana Purchase with that, even though the Louisiana Purchase would have given us even more territory than that. This land here of Texas, Tejas, we're going to focus on, really is going to be the first large focus in Victoria III, come the year 1836. So for now, what we're going to do is just expand a little bit more, and then let's set up what we're going to try to accomplish with the War of 1812 and why it was fought. I'm going to get a little closer to the time there and not rush into that. So might bring you back in a little bit to show that I've pushed some more territory, and then we'll talk about the War of 1812. Some fun little historical events. I just missed, well, I did it myself, but I didn't put it on video. The chartering of the first Bank of the United States, the brainchild of Alexander Hamilton. And then 1796, the election of President John Adams, historically accurate, who was a one-term president, very unpopular, helped avert war with France, but as at that time, he was considered a Federalist, and the power of the Federalists was really waning. And again, Federalists are the people who thought that there should be a strong central government, and instead it was the instead it was the Republicans who sort of gained in the what were originally known as the Anti-Federalists, and instead of having their name be based on another party, another party, they were basically the ones that stood up for states' rights, and so that would eventually come into being under Thomas Jefferson. But for now, we have President John Adams, second president of the United States. Reading his biography right now, too. Okay, I don't think we've done this yet. So, Vermont was the first state admitted to the Union. It's already a state as Lake Champlain. Then Kentucky was admitted. Where are we at, Kentucky? Okay, here we go. Which includes Western Kentucky. I'm pretty sure all of this is Kentucky. Already a state is Western. Yes, is already a state. And then after that, I think I mentioned this already, is Tennessee and Ohio. Now, we don't have them as a state yet. We can. I was really hoping for this one territory here, and I'm not sure what these are going to be. West Virginia or something like that. So you know what? We'll go ahead and make Tennessee a state. Might as well, even though we're missing one of the territories in it. That's fine. And then Ohio, I don't think we can make Ohio a state yet. Well, we could, but we really barely have anything. So we're going to colonize these next, which is pretty historically accurate. These, again, were, indigenous territories. And like I said earlier, what was constantly happening, was this push westward, constant push, constant expansion west. And more land. One of the interesting things that happened here is that men were originally given land grants. I've mentioned this before, like as part of the military or as partly incentive to come over as colonists. And then they would have children, and they'd want to pass on equally sized land to their kids. But rather than subdivide their land up into smaller portions, which were considered unworkable, or not enough for a family to raise themselves on, they would, instead of being good with, settling for what they had, they would find more. They would go get more land. And whether neither good nor bad, I'm not going to make any judgment on that, like I've talked about, but that drove them westward, ever westward. So let's keep bringing in some more states. All right, so out of nowhere, Great Britain has declared war on us. A reconquest of Savannah. We're going to get as close as we can to... Well, we're going to call this the War of 1812. In actuality, the War of 1812 was declared by America on Great Britain. And it was for a few reasons. One, Canada's formed. Okay, that's nice. I just now saw that. That sucks, though, because we can't get Michigan from them without declaring war on Canada. Anyway, maybe we will do that. But one of them was to firm up the northern borders here. What would happen is, even though the British, following the Revolutionary War, were expelled from America, they would help the Indians and sell them weapons and give them bounties for American scalps and all that sort of thing. And addition to the sailor impressment that I talked about before, where they would Shanghai American sailors. And America just basically said, like, all right, enough is enough. You pushed us too far. And they attacked and declared war on Great Britain. In this case, Great Britain has declared war on us. I'm a little scared about that because I don't think I have anywhere near. Oh, that's not too bad. They've got quite a few more cannons than I do, but whatever. Anyway, so we'll see how this goes. I suppose with, defensiveness and everything, I should be able to hold them off pretty well. And attrition, war of posts, all that sort of thing. And so we'll call this the War of 1812. Let's see how it goes. I'll show you when it's done here. Well, so far, Great Britain's War of Reconquest has been absolutely nothing. They haven't shown up. I've got a decent-sized fleet, probably nowhere near theirs, patrolling my waters. I've taken all their colonies, and I'm just waiting them out at this point. I mean, I've got, I should pick up all these other territories, honestly. I mean, I'd rather that the war just ended, because if I go ahead and pick up here, well, that's what, 2? Well, that's not that big of a deal. Yeah, go ahead and pick up all these others. And so, I've got to wait 18 more while basically it ticks down because they hold London, and I'm not about to go invade London when they're, sorry, if you came to reconquest me, then, well, I expect some reconquest. So anyway, the War of 1812, and it literally is 1812, woohoo, is proceeding along as quite a dud, to be honest with you, which is probably for the best. I'm glad to, I don't even know what this means. How much money do we want to lose? Let's go ahead and lose a bunch of money. I got a bunch of money. So I don't really need Britain coming in. I mean, this whole thing is really just supposed to be about expansion. Protestant, sure, welcome to the faith. And so there you have it. We're just going to wait it out. I doubt they're going to show up and cause me any real problems. And, we're going to get this wrapped up here pretty quickly. And then compare maps. That'll be the very, very last thing that I do is compare maps between what the end of this game looks like and what the beginning of Victoria 3 looks like. And you know what? Maybe just for grins, I will attack Canada because I can. Let's go ahead and try to take Detroit. Do we have it? There we go. So we'll set taking Detroit as a target, and we should drastically outnumber them, which is fine. And, because Michigan is clearly, this area here, Michigan, and what is this, Indiana or Illinois? I think it's Indiana. We need to have that, so let's go ahead and do that. Because I don't think Britain's coming over, so we might as well have something for the boys to do while we're waiting to Hopefully you fend off Great Britain if they show up. Oh, who's this? Somebody's showing up. Oh, no, that's Canada. Oh, look. You're about to... your fleet's about to have a nice introduction to my fleet. Let's see if that... Oh, no, instead they... Oh, there we go. Okay. I was going to say, in typical Europa Universalis style, they probably just ran from each other. But, that did not happen. Oh, Canada here to play. They here to play. Look at that. All right. They're bringing, like, their entire army down. So, well, I've got my army, too. Let's go ahead and meet them on the field of battle. So they are deciding to go after my one fort that I'm sure once I get near them, they're going to be like, run away! Yeah, exactly. I don't think I have enough manpower to take this. That would probably be foolish. Alright, run away, little boys. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and play the Ring Around the Rosie game with them, as always. And see if we can take Detroit and get this underway. In the meanwhile, British West Indies has landed. Now, it's funny. They're actually allied with Canada, not with Britain. So I guess we're going to need to go down there and show them what's what. Meanwhile, my native allies are going to go ahead and take the rest of Michigan for me. So that should work out just fine. Let's get on down there. It takes forever. Oh, yeah, here we go. They're going to split and start trying to take all their stuff. Where's my fort? I can't really tell. Alright, well, I'll let them take the north because I really don't want to chase them all the way up there and then have them outnumber me when I'm fending off blah-de-de-blah. Decisions. Let's see how things are going with Great Britain. 14 more. What is that, months? I don't think we may not even be able to tick up that high. You can gain only 3 more war score. So we can only tick up another, what's that, 3 more months? So this is, with Britain, going to be just literally a battle of attrition where they're done. You know, where they end up being tired of fighting the war. Okay, so I starved Great Britain out, and they did eventually land up north with a very, very minor force. There was no sea battle, so we're going to basically make sure we've got all of our... You know what? Can I just pinch it? I think I can. Is that really ours? Does that... I think that extends up a little... Or is that... I think that's Wisconsin. I think that's us, right? Yeah, let's just take it anyway. Why not? Who cares for historical accuracy? No, I'm just kidding. I'm pretty sure that's Wisconsin. Or Minnesota. I can never remember the difference. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do that. We're done with, theoretically, the War of 1812. Now, what we still have outstanding is the war with Canada, which we're doing pretty well at. All I really wanted was Michigan. And so, you know what? We'll go ahead and take that as well. So they... this may be a little bit too far north. I think that is too far north. Lake Superior? Yeah. Do I recognize anything here? Some of these things, I'm just not that great with Midwestern, Northern geography. I'm a West Coast boy. Anyway, yeah, I think that's way too far north. So we'll go ahead and just let that go. And so really the only thing that I'm looking to take from them is Michigan. So let's, and if you're, you know, you can tell Michigan by the glove, right? It looks like a little mitt. So we'll go ahead and take that there. And see how far we've got to go. Demanding Saginaw. What is this? Do we just not have it occupied or something? I don't get this. Alright. Alright, clear my offer. Alright, yeah, what is this? Demanding Pepicokia without occupying any of the forts connected to it. What forts are connected to it? Huh? I'm not really sure at all what's going on there. Anyway, we'll just get the war wrapped up and see what we can do about taking Michigan. I'll just figure this out logistically. All right, Ohio State. Louisiana State. Upper and... oh, that's Arkansas. Thought I saw some sort of other one here. What do we got? Upper Louisiana. Oh, there was Upper Louisiana. What is that, like Nebraska, Missouri? In reality? Where'd it go? Ozarks. Upper Georgia. Illinois. Arkansas. Upper Louisiana. What the heck is this? Is that Nebraska? Anybody watching from the Midwest is like, who is this clown? Like, sorry. I know, like, California, and then there's the East Coast. Anything east of California is the East Coast to us. Sorry. All right, we have some others. Indiana. Okay. I thought we were already a state. Sure. Okay. Illinois should be a state. We're still settling this as a territory, but let's go ahead and just... Illinois should be one. Mississippi should be one. Where's Mississippi? Upper Georgia. West Florida. I didn't realize it extended. There we go. Mississippi already is a state. Maine should be a state at this point. It is. Oh, a fun little flavor event here right at the very end. We're going to go ahead and reconstruct the White House, because again, it was burned down during the War of 1812 by the British. Okay, here we arrived at 1821, having started in July 1776. We'll go ahead and continue, and what we're going to do is just leave it on pause and take a look at this map and compare it to what it looks like in Victoria 3. So, as we start analyzing the differences between the two maps, let's go ahead and flip to Victoria 3 here for just a minute. And you'll see that one of the big differences is just how much of the northwestern territory is supposedly occupied by America. Now, what you see is a lot of Indian territory in the middle. You can see that here. And then to the northwest, a bit more is, expanded American territory. Now let's go ahead and flip back to EU4, and you'll see that we don't have a lot of this northwestern territory explored or even colonized, or nobody does, in fact. Okay? So that's one big difference. Okay, now back forward to Victoria 3 again, and you'll see here that Mexico extends up quite a bit further than it does, okay, back to EU4. And you see, first of all, it's not even Mexico, it's New Spain, right? They never declared independence. Okay, back to Vic 3. And you'll see that Mexico goes up to what's basically the top of California and then stops. Okay, now back to EU4. And we see that's Spanish California, and goes all the way up. Right? So kind of a big difference there. And then also, sticking with EU4, you can see that EU4 is Canada, whereas we flip back to Victoria 3, and you can see that it's Hudson Bay Company. You can see that there, right? So, another big difference. Now, starting back here in EU4, we see that this area here, which is Texas, right? That the big and glaring obvious difference here is, and let's flip back to Vic 3, you can see that Texas is an independent nation, and that indeed, the reason why we don't see this reflected on our EU4 map is because that didn't happen until around the 1830 time frame. And in fact, that is what we are going to begin. Let's get back to it. What we are going to begin the entire victory series with the happenings of Texas. And that will lead us forward in our new series. Thank you so much for watching the Europa and the final Europa Universalis portion. We are going to continue on as the United States in Victoria 3, and I hope you'll join me then. Thanks for watching.